Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about writing the National Benchmark Test, also known as NBTs. And if you are a South African student, you will know that you will have to write the NBTs in order to apply to universities. So I have gathered a whole bunch of different tips and tricks in order to write the exam, because I know it is a stressful one, and I have also gathered some information that is important for you to know when you're writing the test. So hi, if you're new here, my name is Cait and I am a fourth year business science student at the University of Cape Town. So I know it is a really scary test that you have to write, but it is very important in order to get into most universities that you write it. So I really hope that this video is going to be useful for you and that you're able to take something from the video. I'm so happy to answer any other questions that you have, so please leave those in the comments. And if you haven't already, please fully subscribe to the channel and like this video. It really does mean a lot to me and I really appreciate all the support. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So first I'm going to start off with some important information that you need to know when writing the NBT. The reason that you have to write them is because the universities need to test for your academic readiness. Since we all come from different schools and from private and government schools, they need to see that we are ready to enter the university field, and so that is why you write the NBT test. There are two main reasons that universities like to use NBTs. One of them being that they use them in order to see if you're going to be accepted or declined to the university, and the other reason is to see if there's any additional support that they need to give you when you enter university. So when it comes to the test themselves, there are two different papers that you're going to write, and both of them are 3-hour exams, which I know can be very daunting, but the two exams consist of one being the academic and quantitative literacy test, and the second one is a mathematics test. And the academic and quantitative literacy test takes into consideration academic literacy and quantitative literacy. So the academic literacy is reading comprehension, grammar, and textual understanding. And the quantitative literacy is basic mathematics and problem solving skills in real life context. So that one is considered as one paper, and that will be the first 3-hour paper that you write. You'll write this test in the morning, and then you'll have a little break, and then you will write the mathematics part, which evaluates your mathematical skills and understanding, covering topics typically included in your high school maths syllabi. But I do remember that there are some concepts that they ask that you may have learnt in primary school, things that they consider general knowledge that you might have to brush up on, so just take that into consideration. So like I said, it is 2 3-hour papers. You write the academic and quantitative literacy test first in the morning, and then you write the mathematic one after you've had lunch. So yeah, that is very important that you remember to bring a little snack box in between, because you're allowed to have a little lunch, and you have to write both tests on the same day. That is very important. You can't write the one test on one day and the other test on the other day. You have to block out the entire day, because you will be writing both tests on the exact same day. When it comes to the pricing of the test, because you do have to pay for them, if you are only writing the academic and quantitative literacy test, then it is 175 Rand, and if you are writing both the academic and quantitative literacy as well as the mathematics test, then it is a combined total of 350 Rand. And if at the end of everything, once you've got your mark back, you are not 100% sure with it, then just like with the final marks that you get at the end of matric, you are allowed to hand in a remark or ask for a remark, and that will be 250 Rand. So just take into consideration that you do have to pay for the test, and it will be different pricing depending on which papers you're writing. Those are the updated prices that I found on the NBT website as of 2024. So if you're watching this in the future, then it may have changed in future years. So just double check those pricings on the website. So I'm not sure if they've been doing this every year from the very beginning. I think the first set of NBTs that they wrote was in 2017. I could be wrong, but that's what I found for the results. And I don't think they've been doing online sessions and in-person sessions for every NBT test that they've been writing for every year, but I found on their website that they now do online and in person, which is really awesome. There are 5 different online sessions and there are 20 in-person sessions, and these are all on different days, and so it is very important that you check their calendar for the different days that they're writing. I know that there will definitely be different rules when it comes to online session versus in-person session. I had the option in my year in 2020 to write an online version, obviously because of COVID, and there were certain rules. I think things like you have to have a computer with a camera set up, they need to be able to see your workspace, obviously check that you're not cheating, so there will be a lot other rules that apply, so please just double check that when you are applying for in-person or online. And obviously there's a lot more in-person sessions, and there are many places that you can write these. I think they're all over the country, so please just check the different venues. And what is very important is that there are specific dates that you have to register for these certain dates that you are going to write on, and they are in advance, so you can't sign up the day before or do it very last minute. You have to plan in advance, so please check the dates and make sure that you sign up for a specific date before when the university needs your NBT results, because there will be specific dates that certain varsities and certain faculties that will want your results by, and they may not accept you if you hand them in after that date. So in my opinion, get them done sooner rather than later. When it comes to logistics for the specific day that you're writing, some of the key things that I have picked up from the research that I've done is firstly that you have to be at the venue by 7:30 in the morning in order to sign your name in, for them to check everything, check that you paid, check your ID card. So in saying that, please make sure that you have your ID card or passport with you so that they can verify your details. Please make sure you have the receipt or proof that you have paid the fees for the date that you are arriving for. In terms of stationery, they suggest that you have 2 pencils because you'll be writing MCQ tests and you need pencils in order to write those tests. So 2 pencils, an eraser. I would also take a pen in my opinion, just in case you need to fill out any information that needs a pen. So I would suggest 2 pencils, an eraser and a pen. Things that you definitely don't need and will be considered cheating if you take them is a calculator of any sort. Everything you do is going to be problem solving, so they are going to make sure that you are able to do it in your head or on a piece of paper. You will not be allowed a calculator. Something that I found very daunting was the fact that there's no bathroom breaks at all during the test. So please make sure that you go to the bathroom before you write the morning session and before you write the afternoon session, because I cannot imagine having to sit in an exam with a full bladder, really needing the bathroom. That would be the most distracting thing for me. So I really suggest that even if you don't need it at that specific time, just take yourself to the bathroom, because the worst thing is when you're sitting there and all you can concentrate is on your full bladder and not on your paper. You really want to try and do as well in these NBTs as possible, because you just want the stress lifted off of your shoulders a little bit if you can get conditional acceptance or full acceptance to the specific university that you're applying to. Like I said earlier on, you have a little break in between the morning session and the afternoon session, so make sure you take a little packed lunch so that you can eat something. Make sure you have water, because that's important to stay hydrated during the day. It could be a hot day, or if it's winter it could be really cold, so make sure you pack accordingly. Okay, so now that we've gone through the majority of the logistics behind the NBT and important information that I've picked up, I do suggest that you check their website, and if they've got any social media pages, to check that as well. But those are the important things that I picked up and I remember from when I wrote in 2020. I want to share some strategies that I picked up and from some research I've done that will hopefully help you when writing your NBT exams. So very, very important. And the first tip that I will give you is to familiarize yourself with the format. So both exams are going to be MCQ questions, which is very different from when you're writing, you know, out your questions and you don't have to bobble the questions out. They're very similar to, like, if you do Maths Olympiad, they're very similar to those kinds of questions, and so it will be a lot of like problem solving questions. So yeah, just really familiarize yourself with the format. And they've got tons of sample questions and past papers that you will be able to go through, and I seriously suggest that you get hold of as many as possible. And I know it may feel like a waste of time to write these exams. I promise you it is important to put in as much effort as possible. Like I said, it can be the difference between being accepted or declined from a university. And I also have a friend who actually had to pick up an extra maths course because she didn't do so well in her maths NBT. So I'm guessing you don't want to pick up extra courses, so that is another incentive for you to put in as much work as possible. So like I said, first step is familiarize yourself with the structure of the NBT exams. Second tip that I'm going to give you is to review your core concepts. So obviously there's lots of different concepts between the academic and quantitative literacy exam and the mathematics exam. So when it comes to the academic literacy part of the exam, you need to try and improve your reading comprehension skills by reading various texts, summarizing information, and practicing grammar exercises. So I think if you can get hold of papers like past matric papers, that could be helpful as well, and possibly asking your own teachers if you can have some past papers that they've used, and then practice them in an NBT MCQ kind of way. So that is important for the academic literacy part of the first exam. When it comes to the quantitative literacy part of the exam, practice some basic mathematical problems, focusing on percentages, ratios, and interpreting data from charts and graphs. So I know this may seem silly, but go back to even things that you did in like grade 8, grade 9, like very basic questions, because they're assuming that you remember everything that you've learned basically in your whole school career. But I would go back to stuff that you did in junior years and practice those kinds of questions, you know, little things that you were taught in like the younger years, and make sure you can apply those to problem solving questions and MCQ questions. So like I said, percentages, ratios, and interpreting data from charts and graphs. So look again at your different charts and your different graphs. Now when it comes to the maths exam, which is the second one, I suggest you review algebra, geometry, trigonometry, calculus, and statistics. Solve practice problems and past exam questions to reinforce your understanding. So it will still be very useful for you to look at past matric papers or past grade 11 papers and 10 papers in doing practice for this exam. Even though the exam's MCQ, I think you can really get some useful help from doing past like proper questions. I don't know how else to describe it. Non-MCQ questions, I guess. I suggest you do as many past questions as possible, problem solving questions. Oh, and I suggest maybe you can use some different Maths Olympiad questions in doing some practice for this exam. This exam, like I said, is mathematics focused, so make sure that you are practicing as much as possible. I believe when it comes to like maths exams that the most beneficial thing, obviously you need to understand the concepts, but I think one of the most beneficial things is when you practice and practice and practice and practice and just get used to the different concepts. This is what I did for NBT practice and for my final matric practice. I just did as many questions as possible so that I was really familiar with the different sections and different ways of asking questions. My third tip for writing the NBT exam is to use study guides and resources. There are things out there that can be so beneficial for you. Different textbooks, different websites, so please make use of free things, and if you're able to buy some textbooks as well, you can buy them secondhand and resell them afterwards. But I think using different sources is gonna be your best friend when it comes to practicing for the NBT exam. So for example, a few different resources that I used and other resources I found when I did some research are things like educational websites and videos to reinforce your understanding of challenging concepts. So that could be using YouTube and just using free videos to better your knowledge. Obtain study guides specifically designed for the NBT preparation. These guides typically include practice questions, so again, practice questions, detailed explanations, and test taking strategies. If you carry on watching, I've got a section towards the end of the video where I share specific resources that you can use, but that is just a basic overview. So that was tip number 3, is to use study guides and resources. This one is very important for any exam that you write, in university or in school, or even if you're writing NBT. My 4th tip for you is to practice under test conditions. So this is very important because it teaches your brain to write a test or exam in a situation that it will be very familiar with when it comes to actually writing the proper exam. So I even like to just use like the same pen that I'm going to write the exam with, be in a quiet space, no distractions, to have my water bottle nearby, to have a timer, put my phone on do not disturb so that I literally am focusing on the exam. Put the specific timer, if there's reading time, to add reading time as well. But it just stimulates the test environment by timing yourself while answering practice questions. This helps you manage your time effectively during the actual exam, because you don't want to get into the exam, sit there, and then you're an hour into the exam and you've hardly done any questions. That'll make you stressed and will just mean the rest of the paper might not go so well. So I think that's very important. I just think that like doing tests and exams under test conditions can really be the difference between doing really well and not so well, because you may know your work really well, but you may crumble a little bit when it comes to sitting in a test venue. So I think that's very important. You can even do this in study groups. You can get a couple of friends, sit down, and you can time for everyone and get the feel of writing in a room with all your stationery, with the test paper, with a couple of friends, and sit there and just write the test for 3 hours and see where you're at. Because if you are much faster, then that's great. If you're slower, then you know which sections you need to practice more questions for certain sections. I feel like my 5th tip is going to link back to my 4th tip. But my 5th tip is to focus on your weak areas. So you'll be able to see these weak areas once you have written a couple of tests under test conditions. You'll know which sections you need to focus on and do some more preparation with, and maybe ask for some help with. The only way that you are going to be able to improve your weak areas is if you know what your weak areas are, and you'll only know your weak areas if you do past test questions. So I think, yeah, like I said, tip number 4 and 5 are very interlinked, and if you're able to focus on extra time on strengthening these weak areas, then I think you can nail these exams. If you strengthen your weak areas and then you've got your strong areas, you can honestly do so well. But that will only be possible if you do lots of questions and you don't leave your practice to the last minute. If you know your test datas in the future, do a little bit every day or a few hours a week, and you will be great. Tip number 6 is to join study groups or tutoring. So like I said earlier, you could get a couple of friends who are writing the NBT test date similar to the one that you're writing, and you can ask each other questions. You'll all have different strong areas and different weak areas, and so in verbalizing and asking questions, then someone else is practicing by explaining the concept to you, or you're practicing by explaining to someone else. So getting study groups is really helpful. Study groups can also provide support, motivation, and different perspectives on difficult topics. So these tests are not meant to be easy, so if you can try and make them easier by helping one another, that is a great way to make use of a free resource. Then you can also consider hiring a tutor if you need personalized guidance and instructions. So I actually did, and so did my brother. We both signed up for a company called Advantage Learn, who held different workshops and one tutoring and group tutoring, and I made use of the workshops. I don't think I did other tutoring, but they were great to help me in preparing for the NBT exam. I know there will be other companies out there as well, but that is the one that I used and I recommend them. But if you're feeling like you need some extra help beyond your study groups, then that is a great resource to make use of. My 7th tip is to develop some test taking strategies. So if you do lots of practice tests, you'll kind of know the structure of the exam, so you'll be able to learn how to quickly identify the main idea of passages in the academic and quantitative literacy sections, which means that you will be able to go very fast over some of those questions, and any questions that you find difficult, you'll have extra time to come back to and answer the questions. Very important when it comes to MCQ questions. Straight away eliminate any answers that you know are definitely incorrect. That means that you have a better chance of choosing the answer that is correct. I do this in all MCQ tests. When it comes to varsity and school, I always straight away will go and cross out the answers that I know are definitely incorrect, and you may even filter down so much that you just find the right answer straight away. You can work on pacing yourself through the exams as well. If you do pass test questions under exam conditions, you'll know, like, if the exam's 3 hours and you've got this many questions, you'll need to spend like X amount of time on these questions, X amount of time on those questions. I used to do that in school for actually any test really. I tried to see, like, this is the longest section, I need to focus more time on this section, or these, like, I'm better at this section, so I can put less time into these questions. And honestly, it just meant that my stress levels were a little bit lower, and was able to just structure my tests a lot better and get through all the questions, because you want to make sure that you read and answer every question. You don't want to leave out the easy questions because you focus too much on the questions you weren't 100% sure with. My 8th and final tip for you, and this one might be a little bit more obvious or maybe not so obvious, but I'm going to say it anyways, is to remember to take care of yourself. And this is with any part of school, any part of university. Make sure that you're looking after yourself, because in looking after yourself, you're able to do better in your tests, in your exams, and you just will be in a much better mental state to write the exams. This includes making sure you get lots of rest, specifically the night before the exam. Try not to leave anything to the last minute and cram your work in. You honestly are not going to learn much more the night before, in my opinion. So I really think that you need to get a good night's rest, and in getting a good night's rest, this will be because you have planned your time right, you have put all your stationery in your bag, you've made your lunch, you make sure you've got your water bottle, if it's cold make sure you've got a jacket, making sure you've got your ID or your passport, and your receipt that you've paid for the test. Just making sure that you can just pick up your stuff in the morning and get going. Make sure you've organized your lift for getting there and getting home. All the little things will just mean that your day will be a lot smoother, and your stress levels will be a little bit lower. Anything that can help with your stress, just do it. Make sure that the morning of the test you eat a really healthy and well-balanced meal so that you're able to focus and concentrate during the test. You don't want to have a grumbling stomach during the exam. You honestly are not going to be able to focus on the questions, so it's important to eat a balanced meal before you write the test and to take a balanced meal for your lunchtime as well. This could be things like in the morning you can have a bowl of oats or porridge. You can have an egg on toast. For lunch you can take yourself a sandwich, a protein bar, you can take a little salad, anything that is nourishing and will keep you going for the rest of the day, because it is a long day, so you want to make sure that you are staying hydrated and that your tummy is nice and full. So this one might be a little bit harder, but like I said, stay hydrated and do anything to manage your stress levels. And for me, that could be doing meditation, reading my Bible, doing deep breathing techniques, listening to some nice music, calming music, making sure that maybe you're going to walk or do some exercise the day before or the week of the exam, anything that will just make your stress levels a little bit lower and make you feel a little bit more confident in writing the exam. That's all the tips that I have for you, but I just want to share some important resources that I used in prepping for my exams, and hopefully things that you can use as well. So I've already mentioned the NBT website. You can get all the information about the exams, you can get the timetable of the different dates, you can ask them any questions that you might have, and you can get any information that I haven't shared with you on their website. I also mentioned past papers and sample questions, which you'll be able to get on the NBT website. You can get free version, or you can buy different educational resources, so just do a little bit of searching and googling and you'll be able to find that. And then, like I said earlier, you can also use study guides, and here I'll just mention a few study guides that I used and found when doing some research. So you can use things like Cait Achieve, the Answer series, or any other well-reviewed resources. I personally did use the Cait Achieve and the Answer series books. You do have to buy them, but maybe your friends can all collab together and you can buy one book and share it between each other. You could also sell it afterwards, because every year needs to write the NBT tests. But those are the three resources that I think are most important. So the NBT website, past papers and sample questions, I don't think I could have mentioned that anymore, and then study guides to help you as well. I believe that if you use some or all of these tips that I've shared with you, as well as the resources and the different information I shared at the beginning of the video, that you will be able to enhance your preparation for NBTs. I don't think I can say it again, but I will say it anyways. It is very important to do as well as you can in these NBTs. It just allows you to get into more universities, and in using the tips and resources you can hopefully achieve a really amazing score for your NBT exams. I would love to hear from you if one or all of these tips are helpful for you. If you have any other questions, please feel free to drop them in the comment box below, because I am so willing to do some more research or give you my experience. But I use most of these tips and these resources in preparing for my NBT exams 4 years ago when I was prepping in 2020, and I found that they were really helpful. I'm not going to say the tests were easy, because they definitely weren't, but it just helped me to do a little bit better in these exams, and to get conditional and full acceptance at the universities that I wanted, specifically UCT, because that is where I've always wanted to go. So if you did enjoy this video and you found it helpful, please will you like this video, and if you haven't already, please will you subscribe to my channel. I love to share different educational videos, vlogs and student content, and if you have any suggestions of other educational videos that you would like me to talk about, could be school related or university related, I am so happy to film some more videos. I love creating content for you guys, and I love to help you in any way possible. And if you haven't already, will you hit the notification bell so that you're aware of future video uploads. I love you all so very much, and I will see you in my next video.